Back to our breaking news in downtown LA. Arrests now being made on night 2 of the curfew.
That's right. Mike Rogers at the desk now. Mike, this is night 2, but also 20 minutes into night 2 of this curfew now.
It is, and they are making those arrests. This is at Temple and Hill near the Grand Park area. The difference between last night and tonight, last night they basically chased everyone through downtown LA to make the arrest. Tonight they were already here. This group was here and they were kettled. You'll see as Chopper zooms out a little bit, you can see the group of officers that kettled them in that semicircle there, that half circle. They are slowly, I think there's only like 1 or 2 people that are left in that circle that are waiting to be detained. On the left side of your screen, though, I want Oliver to pan down just a touch or tilt down just a little bit. You'll see the people in the green hats. Those are usually representative of people that have legal experience that are trying to give legal advice to the group in the crowd. Those are the last of the people that are being detained as a result of this. And again, they're being detained likely on curfew violations. It is 8:21, the curfew. You're looking live now from a ground shot here. 8:21, curfew going into effect 21 minutes ago. And now the LAPD has moved in and they are making arrests. That other group, as we told you about, we followed them a little bit longer before I moved SkyCal over to this location. They are well out of downtown into the West Lake District now, where they are continuing their march.
All right, Mike, thanks for keeping us up to date. And of course, tactics from law enforcement continuing, right?
Yep, absolutely.
To change.
Yeah, and as we continue to take a live look here in downtown LA, as Mike mentioned, the first arrests, as far as we know, being made tonight after the curfew went into effect at 8 o'clock tonight. Again, this is the second night of the curfews and the 6th night of protesting. We saw the first protest happening on Friday after the ICE raids happened Friday morning, and then some more have happened, and these protests have continued. Also, smaller ways in other cities, but also of course, the biggest ones being in downtown LA. This curfew going into effect after Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles saying that yesterday and the last couple of nights, before that there was too much vandalism, graffiti, looting, and all kinds of criminal activity happening during these protests. Not specifically perhaps from the protesters or by the protesters, but people who are inside these protesting groups, actually embedded within them and actually taking this kind of criminal action that they shouldn't have been doing. So again, this is a ground shot on the right side of your screen. You're looking at people being arrested in downtown LA, we believe, for breaking the curfew in downtown LA. When this curfew does go into effect, it is downtown LA is citywide in terms of that area that they mentioned in downtown LA. And when you're in that area and you do not belong there, you don't live there, you don't work there, you will be arrested. That was clearly made clear by the LAPD.
Yeah, and as Mike was telling us, tactics definitely changed tonight. Yesterday, officers were kind of shooing people away from the area, wanting to clear the area before any arrests happen. Tonight, still daylight out there, as you can see, and people are already being arrested, and it looks like officers were well prepared for that. You see they've got the zip tie handcuffs.
This is the Nation's Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. Curfew is in effect, as most of you probably heard, in Los Angeles as these government-created riots continue to go on day after day after day in downtown LA as they talk of the Insurrection Act and potentially bringing in martial law. And as you can see on the screen from the clip that you just saw, these don't really look like people who are running around, who are trying to get away from the police. The second it turned 8:01, the police were just ready to handcuff people, zip tie them, and arrest them. Even have a woman with red hair smiling as she's getting zip tied for doing absolutely nothing. But this is the new normal, and this is the type of stuff that they're going to continue to push, because this is the same thing we saw back in 2021, right? Where they told you to stay indoors, they told you to have a curfew, they told you to stay quarantined. And anyone who didn't listen, as I covered at the time, people who were caught going out to get something to eat past 8 o'clock were arrested, right? Because remember, in a new world order, there will be curfews enforced. It'll be part of the carbon laws that they're going to bring in to help combat climate change. And they're going to use psychological operations, and they're going to use many other things to condition you into a life of curfews. And this is just another story out there, again, about how a city is under a lockdown with a curfew, right? Curfew, curfew.
It's 6 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock. Curfew, curfew. All residents of Santa Mira, please clear the street. Curfew is now in effect. Please confine your activities to your own home. Thank you. Have a very pleasant evening.
Then, of course, this is spreading now around the United States because we know this No Kings movement, which has a website which tells you of all the locations that there's going to be protests and riots. You would think that the government would take down the website, right? Wouldn't you think that the government would say, hey, there's protests going on, there's a website. I mean, they take other people's websites down. They take other people's YouTube channels down, their Twitter accounts, their Facebook accounts. You have a website which says in America we don't do kings, that has trainings and you would think that this is like some type of militia type of deal, right? Where they're telling people to riot and protest, and then they tell you it's peaceful, but they show you people, throwing smoke bombs and everything else. Wouldn't the government take the website down? Well, of course they would, but they don't want it taken down because the government's behind the website. Because this is what your government does. They bring in order out of chaos. They bring in martial law. They deploy the National Guard, right? In Texas now. Greg Abbott deploying the National Guard across the state in response to protests, just like the little puppet that Greg Abbott is of the World Economic Forum, but plays the role of conservative because these guys, again, they play both sides. And nobody out there even says, hey, if Greg Abbott is a real patriot, a real Republican, why is he a member of the World Economic Forum? Or why is Donald Trump showing up, even elected in 2025 in Davos, for a live stream telling Klaus Schwab how wonderful he is and how wonderful the World Economic Forum is? These people just turn a blind eye every single time. So now we need to pay attention, in addition to the curfews and how many curfews we start seeing implemented, because this weekend, we're definitely going to see a lot of false flags. We've got Trump's birthday on June 14th, where we have the military that's going to be standing outside of Washington. I wouldn't be surprised if they stage another insurrection, that the government does a Democrat insurrection, and then the media covers it like it's heroic, and then all the conservatives are in an uproar because all they've heard about for the last 4 years is about insurrection and how it was the worst tragedy in the history of America. But now when the Democrats do it, they're celebrated, and the media says that it's a peaceful protest, and the images look eerily similar of one another. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see something like that actually occurring. So there's a lot of talk about martial law. Okay, for anyone out there that doesn't know, martial law is the replacement of civilian government by military rule and the suspension of civilian legal processes. There's also the talk of an insurrection act, and Donald Trump has hinted at it and even said it himself that he may actually impose the Insurrection Act, which would authorize the president to deploy military forces to assist civilian authorities, not to replace them. But we're actually seeing that in a sense, right? Because they're deploying the National Guard all around the United States right now. Well, in Texas and California, and then we have all of these supposed events that are going to be occurring. You know that they'll be calling on the National Guard as well. I mean, right now, we're seeing stories of protesters in Detroit, protesters showing up in New York, and it's only going to spread, of course, like a virus over the next couple of days because this is part of the hive mind, right? They put these stories out there. People are seeing all this over and over and over again. They're feeling led to join in, not knowing that these are staged government operations. And then they participate. And then guess what happens? Then suddenly they're on a terror list, right? Because if you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in LA, they've actually deployed drones. And people have become so desensitized. Republicans have become so desensitized that if you told them that the drones were being deployed during the insurrection of January 6th, they would have been very angry about it. But they're actually cheering this on. They're cheering on Palantir. They're cheering on drone deployment. And this is a full-on surveillance state coming to fruition right in front of our eyes. Predator drones are flying over LA. They are photographing people who are showing up at this event. They are going in databases. Palantir is keeping the data. They're sharing the data with the government. You're going on terror lists. That's why they create these events, because they try to get you to participate in these events. Look at this and how Fox News is actually talking about these drones like this is a wonderful thing and this is for everybody's safety. And we need more drone deployment from the government. It's absolutely insane.
Let's begin right now with Fox News contributor Brett Velikovich. He joins us now. And Brett, I know Carly has prepared extensively for this segment, so I'm going to let her take it from here.
That's right. Yeah, good morning, Brett. So we want to talk to you about drones because we just showed some LA riot footage where it was a drone that was displaying that footage, called a Predator drone. And not surprisingly, the people who are supporting these riots are saying those drones usually fly during military combat. Now they're flying over LA riots. How dare they fly on U.S. soil? So what is your reaction to that criticism?
Well, hey, first, good morning, and thanks for having me on the show again. It's great to see you guys. And look, these are not armed drones with Hellfire missiles that are launching off of them or ready to fire at protesters. So don't worry. They're really there to provide this sort of insight into criminal activity, capture footage of protests, feed intel to the local authorities. You have these large, massive groups of people popping up in areas around LA quickly, and that's something that law enforcement needs to get ahead of. And CBP, Customs Border Protection, they've had this fleet of unarmed drones for quite some time. Typically they're flying along the southern border of Mexico looking for drug cartel activity. They're used for more high-profile operations, but every once in a while they get tasked for domestic operations. And these things, they sit very, very high, typically 20,000 feet above ground, and they can see a lot of terrain that way and cover a lot of space. And so, it may be concerning for some Americans, but this is perfectly legal for them to fly over the airspace, especially when it comes to the fact now that the National Guard has been deployed. They have military assets like this that they can task out to support their operation. And that's really part of deploying the National Guard when it's activated by the president. It's not just about the individual soldiers, it's the resources, it's the surveillance assets, it's the intelligence, and it's this full support structure that comes along the way. So this is really a good thing for everyone's protection.
So now you're in a world where Fox News is talking about drones being flown and surveillance in a surveillance state, and conservatives love it. They're like, yeah, we need that because we need to find out what people out there are causing problems. We need to see which people are illegal. We'll get their faces. We'll get facial recognition. We'll be able to track and monitor all these people. And everybody's on board. Everybody's on board, right? Because that's the point of the left-right divide, the political divide. When it works to your advantage, then suddenly you support the surveillance state. When these are the people, the conservatives are supposed to be the ones who are against a surveillance state, who are supposed to know about what invoking martial law would mean, about what the deep state really wants, about AI governance, about all of this biometric data that they're gathering. But they don't. They think that this is a great, wonderful thing, right? How about a couple of months ago when all the drones were flying over New Jersey and New York? And nobody was saying boo when Donald Trump came in office and didn't tell you what it was. But before Donald Trump came in, they were saying that Joe Biden's responsible, the Democrats are doing something. They're targeting Donald Trump's golf course with the drones, drone this, drone that. Donald Trump comes in, he says, we don't know what they are. They're no big deal. He doesn't even bring attention to it. And all these people just forget about how your government was doing a test run with drones over the East Coast to see how you responded to those test runs, flying them over people's homes, getting you used to a surveillance state. So we have drones flying over LA. And if this expands, which it will, because we have Newsweek, we have all the mainstream media who are taking the website, the No Kings website, and they're promoting where these events are going to occur without promoting it, right? Map and list cities hosting No Kings protest against Trump on June 14th. And they give you every single location, what time it starts, what time it ends, all of it in Newsweek, in New York Times, in Time Magazine, all of them. Instead of saying, hey, what we should do is shut down the website. We shouldn't promote the events because these could be considered militia-like events or dangerous events where things could occur. People could get hurt. Things could be destroyed. Property could be destroyed. No, the mainstream media, of course, is promoting it. The government's not expecting you to ask the question as to why they wouldn't shut down the No Movement website and prevent this from occurring since they're telling you where they're going to be. Shouldn't they be showing up and saying, hey, you're not allowed to do this because these aren't peaceful protests? Oh, they're allowing it because it's peaceful protests when everybody out there knows that it's not peaceful protests, right? Because they're tearing down statues, they're graffitiing things, right? They're causing chaos in the streets, they're opposing the police. It's a joke. It's an utter joke. Look at the list of locations, how many places they give you: Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho. So, who is organizing it in Hawaii? Right? Some guy found the No Kings website and is organizing. We're supposed to believe the government's not behind it. It's a joke. Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Mass, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico. We missing any states? New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. I'm not positive where I listed every single state, but I think it's in every single state. And the map practically shows us every single state. In fact, we even have some down in Mexico occurring. So the mainstream media is promoting this, wanting people to attend it, obviously. And then these people don't even realize that the government's flying drones above you, provoking you into violence, because that's what this is. This is the government using psychological ops to provoke you into what you think is peaceful protest. Well, they'll have plants there who are going to set fire to things, who are going to burglarize, who are going to terrorize. And then you're going to be on camera and you're going to be put on a list and you're going to be tracked and monitored. And you're going to say, well, I don't care. I'm not doing anything wrong, right? We have Fox News promoting the drones. We have the mainstream media promoting the event. We have no signs of the government shutting it down. And of course, we're allowing the government to invoke curfews again. How many times has the government invoked a curfew? COVID curfew. We heard about some other events over the last couple of years where cities like Detroit went under curfew. Curfew. Get used to it. The more they do this, the more desensitized people become. And they're like, what's the big deal? There's a curfew, right? Yeah, for months on end, for a year almost, we had curfews. Stores had to close at 6 o'clock at night. You had to be home before sundown, right? And if anybody out there is paying attention to the connection between wearing masks and carbon emissions, they have the same thing ready for you when it comes to the carbon footprint and the carbon laws that they're pushing and passing. That there's going to be curfews. You're going to live like a prisoner. Do prisoners have a bedtime, lights out, curfew, an allotted time outside? Yes, they do. And that's exactly the way that you're going to live. So pay attention to what other states invoke curfews, because it won't just be California. You will see other false flags occurring. Government agitators will obviously be the ones behind it because your government is behind it. But they do this to get you on board. They want you to show up. They're trying to provoke you into violence. They're trying to provoke you into showing up at these events as if you're doing something honorable, and you're not. And you're helping the government bring in a surveillance state because now they're flying drones around and they're taking video of you. They're putting you on government lists. And when now that the entire seesaw has flipped, where the Democrats are now the enemy of the state, maybe they should start thinking about all this stuff instead of calling us all conspiracy theorists, the people who say the left and right are working together, and start saying, hey, you know what? Now they're provoking us like they did on January 6th and provoked conservatives. And now they're getting us in a digital database. And now they're surveying us. And now they're taking all sorts of biometric data on us. And we got drones. And the next thing you know, there's drones all over. And they say, well, now we're not just going to use drones for these types of riots that the government creates. We're going to use drones around all cities. Then we're going to move it out to the farmland because we're going to create psyops and false flags there. Then you realize that the golden dome that Trump was talking about was a surveillance dome where drones fly free. And if you shoot down the drone, you'll spend more time in prison than a mass murderer will. They promise you that. They already told us during the New Jersey drones that if you shoot one out of the sky, you're going to go to prison for shooting a drone out over your home. As if they, of course, believe, which they do believe, that they have carte blanche to the sky and to the air. And they do worship the prince of the power of the air, don't they? So pay attention to the stories with curfew, with drones being let out, and of course, discussion of martial law, what other states bring in the Marines and the National Guard, because it's going to be the new normal. Without pushback, with people participating in events the government wants them to participate in, we're just leading ourselves to our own demise. What a joke. The website's up, folks. The mainstream media is telling you where the events are going to occur, giving you even the exact time to show up. Yeah, they're not trying to provoke you into this as they send drones out above you. Give me an utter break. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.